Hello, I'm Scott Davis, and welcome to New World Birth. This is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of September 29th of 2014 and one Manik, or Deer, in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. We'll also be talking about Venus moving into Libra, Mercury turning retrograde, the Aries full moon, and then Mercury returning to Libra. So September 29th is one Manik, or Deer, and this carries the themes of service, healing, protection, sacrifice, intuitive and instinctual knowledge, the four directions, shamanic energy, ritual dance, dignity, respect, and breaking free of limitations. The ritual deer dance symbolizes the sanctity and balance between the people and nature. And the energy of deer is to rise up above limitations of living a life only on the physical plane. This is a time to connect with spirituality through ceremony, dance, ritual, and being in nature. It's also a time to find strength to break free of anything limiting spiritual growth and healing. And since we begin a new Gregorian month during this Trisena, I thought I'd discuss the metaphysics of the upcoming month. October is the 10th month, and with the digits of 2014, when we add them together, we get 8. And so we have an 8-month in numerology, and basic numerology moves from 1 through 9. So when we think about that arc, the 8 represents a time of picking up the pace as we're preparing to complete the cycle next month. And this can bring revisions to financial situations, businesses, investments, and industry. The 8 is represented by the adjustment and justice archetype in the tarot cards, which is about finding balance in our path to know ourselves. This also brings the energy that what is begun must be completed. This quote from Ralph Bloom in the Book of Runes represents the adjustment justice archetype. Know thyself, nothing in excess. The self is required to balance the self. So October represents moving towards completion in November, as July brought us new options. August brought us further down the path regarding the situations that lead to a new life. We began a time of evolution in September, which leads to the solar and lunar eclipses in October, as well as Mercury retrograding from Scorpio back into Libra in October, to review information and actions that occurred while Mars spent 8 months in the sign of the scales. In November, we complete the numerological cycle. And we have a very favorable grand trine in the fire signs, and it began on September 24th, and is currently building and will be an orb until October 14th, with Mars in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Leo, and Uranus in Aries. Jupiter trine Uranus, exact on September 25th, brings the desire for expression by doing something outside of the normal routine. This transit can bring a sudden surprise opportunity or some sort of new chance that can be beneficial. Mars trine Uranus, which is exact on October 5th, brings new activities and encounters, some occurring quite unexpectedly, that are exciting and have the potential for personal growth. Risk-taking under this influence will give a greater sense of being alive. And this can be used to break down barriers in our lives without having the impulsivity destroy everything we see as a restriction. And then Mars trine Jupiter is exact on October 8th, which has real high energy for physical activities and growth of consciousness and knowledge. It brings forward movement through the open doors and opportunities that lead in a new direction. Optimism and positive energy bring more favorable results if we can find the need to take a gamble in some type of unknown venture. We can also put all these energies together, and we have an unexpected, represented by Uranus, Opportunity, represented with Jupiter, for action, represented by Mars. So during this time period, folks may feel may take chances on to begin something new, represented by Aries, through creativity, represented by Leo, with fortunate results, represented by Sagittarius. The fire energy will be outspoken, bold, and challenging. Action will be required when an opportunity is suddenly revealed. Before I get into the daily energy for one Manik or Deer, for the Trecena, on the 29th, we have all the planets appear to be moving forward from our vantage point here on Earth, with the exception of Chiron, Uranus, and Neptune, which appear to be moving in reverse or retrograde from our perspective here on the Earth. And remember, these themes of retrograde planets are the review of the past, reevaluation, reminiscence, and we can see these themes being played out. Chiron retrograde in Pisces is about releasing stuck emotional energy so that we can return to the natural flow of life. Uranus in Aries represents that it's seeking to shake our very foundation through the unexpected rebellion of the individual. Retrograde Uranus in Aries will have people wanting to hurry the process of getting free, to push the river of revolution, whether it's be personal or political. Being an outer planet, and this will go for Neptune as well, the outer planets create events that we respond to. Inner planets affect us personally as individuals, but the outer planets change the landscape, which affects us as a collective and as individuals within humanity. And then we've got Neptune in its own sign of Pisces. It's seeking transcendence through spiritual experiences. And so this is a time to use spiritual practices to keep us grounded as we expand our intuition and consciousness. So the real big change, though, for the one Deer Tzolkin is that Mercury is going to be changing directions as it moves retrograde on the 4th of October and then turns direct on the 25th of October. So most of the month would be a good time to avoid signing contracts or other legal papers, making major purchases, or even taking a new job. And so if you can postpone these types of activities, the terms are going to be much clearer after Mercury is moving direct. Now, that's not always possible, but if you can avoid these activities a few days before and after Mercury changes directions on the 4th and the 25th, when the energy is at its most potent, that would be also beneficial. Mercury retrogrades force us to slow down and pay more attention to our lives by making us focus on the details of our daily experience. When we look at a retrograde cycle of any of the personal planets, it provides information about a correction to our present course. And during this report period, we have Mercury is finishing traveling through the first stage of its retrograde process, which began on September 14th. And there are really two important points to be aware of when we look at a retrograde cycle. There's the point where the planet appears to begin to move backwards from our vantage point here on the Earth. So you can see that when Mercury is in this inner circle, it's going to appear to be moving in reverse, as how we'd expect the planets to be moving in the wheel. And then when it reaches the point where it begins to round this corner and move behind the sun, that's when it then appears to be moving forward again. So those are the 2 points we look at. The first stage represents the shadow time between passing 17 degrees Libra and the point where it's going to eventually begin to slow down. The point where 17 degrees is where it will begin to move forward again. And from moving past that point and the point where the planet slows, stops, and begins to move in reverse at 2 degrees of Scorpio, that's the first stage. And during the first stage, we receive information about needing to adjust our direction. The second stage is the actual retrograde phase when it's moving in front of the sun here. During this phase, is a time to watch for events that occur related to information that we received during the first stage. The third stage begins when the planet is moving forward again, from our perspective here on the Earth. And the third stage, it goes from when it begins to move forward again until it crosses the degree where it originally turned retrograde. And during the third stage, we move forward with our revision to our previous course. We entered the first stage for Mercury on September 14th. So from then until October 4th, we receive information about an adjustment that needs to be made in our lives. Mercury then is retrograde from October 4th at 2 degrees Scorpio until October 25th at 17 degrees Libra, which will be a time where we'll notice events that shift our thinking. And then from October 25th to November 10th, we'll be in the third stage where we implement the change in direction from the awareness gained through the experience of this process. And because Mercury retrogrades from Scorpio back into Libra, I've been discussing the two faces of the trickster. Mercury in Libra is about finding balance in our relationships, and Mercury in Scorpio wants to get below the veneer and look at inner motivations, values, and ethics. So I expect that people are going to change their minds as Mercury changes signs. And I've discovered that Mercury retrogrades repeat every 79 years. And so we can look at the recurrence of themes from 1935, 1856, and 1777, and see, what were the things going on at that time. See if those were interesting times. So let's look at 1936. 1935 saw Adolf Hitler's reinstatement of the Air Force, the Luftwaffe, and the rearmament of Nazi Germany, both in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. There was a coup d'etat attempt in Greece. The Harlem race riot occurred in New York City after a teenager was brutally beaten. The Great Dust Bowl in the United States, other natural disasters being a 7.1 earthquake in Pakistan, killing 40,000 people, and the strongest hurricane to make landfall in the United States, killing 423 people. FDR signed the Social Security Act. The Congress of Industrial Organizations, or CIO, was created, pushing the cause for industrial unionism. Heinrich Himmler's Lebensborn program, it was founded to support Nazi eugenics. Mao Zedong called for the National United Front against the Japanese invasion, and the rise and fall of gangsters and bank robbers here in the United States. In 1856, brought an increase in conflict between pro-slavery and anti-slavery forces, with armed conflicts, particularly in Kansas, and Senator Charles Sumner being beaten with a cane by Congressman Preston Brooks for Sumner's speech attacking Southerners who sympathize with the pro-slavery violence in Kansas. The beating that Sumner received left him unable to return to duty for 3 years, with Brooks becoming a hero across the South. There's the Taiping Rebellion and the Second Opium War and the Anglo-Persian War were also events that occurred during 1856. 1856 was also the last time that Neptune was in Pisces, as it currently is. Which was a time of more compassion for the suffering of slaves in the United States, but also opposition to that compassion, which has made its way back into the conscious event field with the awareness of police shootings, of people of color without probable cause, and yet white people can carry military-type weapons in public without incidents here in the United States. Also, this seems to be being played out in the theme of wealth inequality, which if all your income only pays for your survival, isn't that also another form of enslavement? And of course, here in the United States, we've got millionaire legislators who are voting for corporate interests over their constituents' needs. So perhaps, this being the Chinese year of the horse, I think this is the best chance, as I've said before, for this to actually be confronted and changed. And we're certainly seeing an awakening in the USA with the protests regarding racism and climate change. And I read that the 1% is becoming fearful of America erupting in a way that is similar to the French Revolution. And then let's look at 1777. Well, that of course saw the American Revolution becoming more heated, with the Continental Army operating as an organized fighting unit. And it's interesting to me that the tactics that we look at as being carried out by patriots in history would now be acts of terrorism from our point of view, such as attaching a time bomb to the hull of the HMS Eagle, or placing cannons on Dorchester Heights overlooking the Boston Harbor. These were patriotic acts during the American Revolution. But if we were engaging in these types of acts currently, I'm sure that the United States government would be looking at us as terrorism, as terrorist acts. But these are also themes of the trickster, which is the archetype that I really associate with Mercury retrograde. And the theme of the trickster is to use cleverness and covert actions rather than to attempt to battle a more powerful adversary during its own times. And during most of 1777, Pluto was in Capricorn, dismantling power structures that have outgrown their usefulness, which is the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn until 2008, where it remains today. So clearly we're looking at cycles within cycles. The players have changed their roles, but the themes of a decaying empire collapsing under its own weight, with individuals employing tactics of cleverness over direct confrontation, and the oppression of power, the oppressive power of fascist governments, economic decline, increasing the chasm between the elite and the struggling throngs, and the growing compassion for those left without a voice, are the fabrics of our times. And if you look at the house of your astrological chart that contains 17 degrees of Libra to 2 degrees of Scorpio, you'll find the theme of where you'll experience your revisions, reviews, rethinkings of the characteristics represented by that house in your chart. For me, Mercury is going to be moving back and forth in my 5th house of children and creativity. So I'd expect this cycle to provide new information about my creative process and perhaps my relationships with children. No matter where the Mercury retrograde occurs in your chart, this often leads to changing choices, goals, and directions. In the world, look for themes of completion through emotional review of past, particularly related to ethics and motivation, while in Scorpio, the first phase of the trickster. And then communications should turn to topics like balance, fairness, and relationships, when Mercury moves through Libra, representing the second phase of the trickster. All the Mercury retrogrades in 2014 moved from water signs to air signs, from Pisces to Aquarius, from Cancer to Gemini, and now we're looking at from Scorpio to Libra. As we begin October, Um, and also the one Deer Tzolkin. Mercury's beginning to slow down, so it's getting to this edge where the movement is towards the Earth, so it doesn't change many degrees. And when a planet slows down to a stop from our perspective here on Earth, it's considered to be at the peak of its power. And Mercury being at the peak of its power reminds me that the Greek god Hermes, who the Romans later renamed to Mercury, was the trickster god. He's the messenger of the gods, and if you weren't on his good side, you might not get your message, or it might be altered to mean something different than what was intended. And in mythology, the trickster is a god, goddess, woman, man, animal, or spirit that creates mischief by playing tricks and acting outside the accepted rules of the community. And I want to share this quote from Joseph Campbell. Almost all non-literate mythology has a trickster hero of some kind. And there's a special property in the trickster. He always breaks in, just as the unconscious does, to trip up the rational situation. He is both fool and someone who is beyond the system. The trickster represents all those possibilities of life that your mind hasn't decided it wants to deal with. The mind structures a lifestyle, and the fool or trickster represents a whole nother range of possibilities. He doesn't respect the values that you've set up for yourself and smashes them. The fool is the breakthrough of the absolute into the field of controlled social orders. And that's a great description of Mercury retrograde. It contains a formula for confronting a more powerful foe, of being cunning and fighting on their terms. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy for the Trisena. The 29th is one Manik or Deer, which is about unity experience through being a service to others in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. And at this point, we have Venus moving into Libra. Which is a sign ruled by Venus. So this is a happy place for the goddess of love. People focus more on balancing their relationships with Venus and Libra. And Venus, along with the Sun and eventually retrograde Mercury, will be filling one of the now infamous cardinal signs as it moves toward activating the square with Uranus in Aries and it's a T-square with Uranus and Aries and Pluto and Capricorn. Being an air sign, Venus in Libra is more romantic than sensual. Certainly the scales bring a balance to the aesthetics of Venus. This may influence us to create the right trappings and ambience for romance, such as an intimate candlelight dinner, or beautiful poem written for a lover, or some other charming way to express a special love for our partners. I'm not going to be covering the daily lunar activity in these reports other than new moons and full moons, but that information is available on the New World Birth Daily Facebook post and also on the blogger New World Birth blog. On the 30th, we have two Lamat, or star, or rabbit, which is duality experience through being grateful for abundant relationships. October 1st is three Maluk, or offering, taking action through appreciating creation in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. The second is four Ak, or dog, stability through enjoying family and friends. October 3rd is 5 Shuin, or monkey, empowerment through creating something new in the Tzolkin calendar. And the 4th is 6 Ebb, or road. It's about being in the flow through serving community as Mercury turns retrograde. So at this point, Mercury's really moved around to the point where it's starting to appear to be moving opposite the direction we would expect the planets to move relative to the zodiological constellations. The Mercury's retrograde is at 2 Scorpio, which is the same sign of the Sun conjunct Venus on the 25th of October, which is the same day when Mercury goes direct. So even folks that don't really follow astrology are usually aware of Mercury's retrograde's effect on communication, technology, and travel. This begins a time that shifts our review of information to below the surface with the focus on Scorpio themes of secrecy, ethics, and passion until it returns to Libra on the 10th. From the 4th to the 25th would be a good time to avoid signing legal papers, like I said before. Of course, also what I said before is if you can't, avoid making major changes like a purchase or taking a new job, then try to at least avoid that a few days before and after Mercury changing direction on the 4th and 25th, when the energy is at its most potent. That would be a beneficial just to avoid those time periods. Retrograde cycles provide information about a change of correction to our cosmic course. In Scorpio, the themes are of powerful feelings, emotional awareness, and intuition guiding our adjustments with our spiritual and sexual connections, which will be particularly apparent and could have profound effects on our lives. Also, the Mercury-Scorpio combination can have our moods impacting our ability to think logically. People may be more sensitive and take what is said more personally. We benefit by being conscious of our emotional state when making appointments or calls to avoid upsetting other people. The timing will be better once Mercury returns to Libra in 6 days. Also on the 4th, we've got the Sun in a square to Pluto. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 90-degree angle, and the Sun square Pluto begins a kind of a tense period when the Sun is activating that cardinal T-square with Uranus and Pluto, and these planets are moving towards exactitude as the Sun, Libra Sun, dances with each one in the first week of October. A square between the Sun and Pluto brings powerful forces that test us from within and from without. These tests may lead us to make radical changes in some area of our life that is not working very well. This can be very beneficial for letting go of old patterns or behaviors that come up for examination at this time. Holding on to what is not working in your life will become more difficult. This transit indicates that persons in authority may demand that we account for our actions and even ourselves. Some people will abuse power they are wielding under this influence. Also, this indicates a breakdown of situations and machinery. No matter what you experience, something will make you aware that it needs fixing. And my advice is fix it, whether it's a machine, a relationship, a behavior, a pattern that no longer works. Also on the 4th, Mars squares Chiron, in which folks may find aggressive activities, particularly with people that they have had sexual relationships with, make them more aware of their past wounds, so they can, if they choose to, heal them. Chiron. And then October 5th is 7 Ben, or corn, or reed. It's about reflection through maintaining the home. And Mars trines Uranus. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 120-degree angle, which brings new activities, encounters, some occurring quite unexpectedly, that are exciting and have the potential for personal growth. People will want to break out of daily routines with personal inhibitions reduced. Expect folks to engage in activities that that they desired yet haven't had the courage to do before. Risk taking under this influence will give folks a greater sense of being alive, but it can also have unexpected, unpleasant consequences if it doesn't work out, if things don't work out just right. This can be used to break down barriers in our lives without having the impulsivity to destroy everything that we see as restriction. And then on October 6th, we have 8 Ish, or Jaguar, balanced through enjoying nature in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. October 7th is 9 Men, or Eagle, patience experienced through seeing from a higher perspective, as the sun now is in opposition to Uranus. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 180-degree angle, which is the next alignment activating that cardinal T-square. It brings a day that is quite different from the norm. This could be experienced as a restlessness in close relationships, through one or the other feeling impatient and unwilling to put up with something, which could lead to arguments. In business partnerships, this may require a radical change due to some unexpected new information or situation. This is a time of upset and surprise related to parts of your life that you have not received adequate expression in the past. This is the time to figure out what you want, and then later on figure out if it's practical. For those that do not find a conscious expression for this energy, they might find that they're more accident prone under this influence. Overall, the winds of change are blowing us in the direction that we're now aware of due to Pluto's deeper perspective. And then on the 8th, we have 10 Key, or Wisdom. It's about manifestation through introspection, meditation, and forgiveness during the Aries full moon and lunar eclipse, which is being squared by Pluto, merging with Uranus, opposed by the sun, and finding support from Mars and Jupiter. And full moons are a time of tension, as the sun in Libra is about balancing the needs of those we have relationships with our own personal emotions as individuals, represented by the moon in Aries. And eclipses intensify the experience, especially on the part of the globe where they can be observed. The moon, challenged by Pluto, affects folks as having a compulsion to act in ways that may not be good for them in the long run, but it also can help us to look inside and find what we want in any situation, as long as we're honest with ourselves. Be cautious of power struggles, as people will easily slip into the role of victim or perpetrator. Merging with Uranus, people are feeling impulsive and acting hasty, with moods changing quickly and unexpectedly, forming a grand trine with Mars, Jupiter, and Jupiter is very favorable to balance some of the Uranus-Pluto energy. With people are having a pleasant sense of well-being in relation to Jupiter, and feeling a little more confident than usual with their ability to assert themselves in a positive manner with Mars. The conjunction with Uranus is exact an hour before the full moon and lunar eclipse, and it's very tight in the chart. So we can bring unexpected changes and connections with our emotional nature and relationships. And we have the ruling planet of Libra, where the sun currently is. Venus is in a square to Pluto on the 8th, and has us feeling more intensity of this cardinal T-square. It intensifies our emotional experiences and expression. It also brings a few days of more challenge that are more challenging for relationships. as it brings secrets out to the open. This is a time of being drawn into powerful love experiences that change our consciousness, at least for a time. This may bring changes to a relationship that our only recourse is to surrender to accommodate the shift, which can be difficult because we crave stability in relationships, and at these times, relationships are anything but stable. Probably the best option is to hold loosely to those we love for a few days before and after the 8th. So this could be a time where we might hear or contemplating contacting a former lover when Venus interacts with Pluto. And then also on the 8th, the planet of the Aries full moon, we've got Mars in a trine to Jupiter. So from our perspective here on the Earth, again, 120-degree angle in a trine, which is a high energy for physical activities and growth of consciousness and knowledge. It brings forward movement through opening doors and opportunities that lead in the right direction. Physically, this is high energy with positive feelings for being able to accomplish more work than usual. Some may feel lucky during this period of time, but this transit brings the ability to act based on seeing the whole picture. This is very good for any activity to advance your own interests, but being conscious of our actions to avoid self-aggrandizement. Business is favored under this transit, as we may find ourselves blessed with insights that we don't normally have. Optimism and positive energy bring more favorable results if we find the need to take a gamble on an unknown venture. And then on October 9th, we have 11 Kaban, or Earth in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar, which is about resolution through a gratitude for Mother Earth. The 10th is 12 Etsnob, or Flint, understanding through being introspective. Retrograde Mercury moves back into Libra. So now it's moved to here in its orbit. Which is where it will stay for a month as it returns to Scorpio on November 8th. So it's in Libra, Mercury is about rational, balanced thinking and communication. People are more inclined to make decisions by listening to the pros and cons. Fairness is important while Mercury is in Libra, and sometimes this weighing of options turns into indecision. Mercury is social in Libra and does not wish to stir up controversy, so I expect to have more friendly and possibly sympathetic conversations with others over the 29 days that Mercury's in Libra. And I think that Mercury, particularly retrograde in Libra, will have us reviewing the situations that were brought forward when Mars was in the sign of the scales for 8 months due to its retrograde of going back and forth and bringing instability and uncertainty regarding what action to take. So we could this could bring a revision to agreements, treaties, and contracts that were implemented when Mars was completing its transit of Libra. And Mars was in Libra from December of 2013 to July of 2014. So look during that period to see what was going on, because this Mercury retrograde is going to reactivate some of those themes. Also on the 10th, the Sun is in a trine, sextiles Jupiter. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 60-degree angle to Jupiter, which is very positive for almost any activity. It brings a positive frame of mind that can be applied towards success. This lucky transit influences activities to work out as planned. Great energy to be with friends or work harmoniously in group situations, as there's a strong energy to be included in something bigger than oneself. Uh, this is also has a good is good to reflect on our lives and goals, but it does caution against blindly assuming that everything's going to work out perfectly, as we might want to review any plans for the future. With Jupiter involved, it's easier to see the big picture. This also helps us in relationships with people of authority, as there is a desire to be at one with the sources of universal energy, and on a most mundane level, that includes the desire to get along with those in power. And then on October 11th, we have 13 Kawak, or storm, movement to the next stage through recognizing the gifts of adversity. And at this point, we have Venus in opposition to Uranus. So from our perspective here on the Earth, Venus is at a 180-degree angle from Uranus, which activates again the cardinal T-square. When Venus is opposed by Uranus, we have a sudden, unexpected occurrence in a love relationship, which may not be negative. This can be unusual and stimulating, but also destabilizing, and people will be driven to have exciting activities and experiences. The routine in relationships will not be satisfying on the 11th, and unresolved tension in love relationships may cause a rupture in the pairing. Relationships that begin under this influence will prove to be a break from the mundane, but also may not be long lasting. And then, so no matter what these energies are that are affecting you during the one Deer Tzolkin, take some time to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, being conscious of the moment through introspection, meditation, or being with someone you love. Every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that are beckoning to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to observe the play as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. So I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on October 12th. 2014 for one Ahau, or Sun, with the Sun moving into Scorpio, Venus moving also into Scorpio, and the Scorpio new moon and solar eclipse. You can check us out on Facebook or YouTube or the Mayan Magics website. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I'm going to be discussing the metaphysics and astrology transits of October 2014 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Truth Frequency Radio on Wednesday, October 1st. The show begins at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I come on at 1:30, and the show goes until 3 o'clock, again, Eastern Daylight Time, 3 p.m. I'd encourage you to join the show by going to the truthfrequencyradio.com website. Go to the Earth Needs Rebels tab. Go into the chat space. You can message Katie there with your information if you have a question or you want to get a short reading. Or you can personal message her with your phone number, and they'll call you for free anywhere on the planet to bring you live onto the show. And if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. And I am providing readings, and I wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 levels of compensation. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And first of all, I want to thank those people who have sent us donations or have gotten readings, because that's actually the best way to make a donation, because you get something really important. And these readings are epic. They're 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, and sometimes longer. But they're just dense. They're full of information, just like these videos are, to help you navigate what's going on in your life, and to make you aware of how you're designed to make decisions in this life. So anyway, as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh. And I'm really grateful that you've been taking the time to be part of this experience with me. And I look forward to connecting with you on either the next video or on the radio show, or through a reading. Anyway, thanks everybody, and all my best to you.